My family gave me 48 hours to leave my grandfather's house. They said it belonged to my sister. They were already planning the wedding there. What they didn't know was that my grandfather left me the safe and everything inside it. My mother set it in the kitchen of my grandfather's house at 8:14 a.m. on a Wednesday morning while she stirred sugar into her coffee like she was reading a grocery list. My father stood beside her with his arms folded. My sister leaned against the counter with her engagement ring catching the morning light. 3 people who had not visited my grandparents in the last 6 months were standing in their kitchen telling me the inheritance had been decided. I said one word, "Okay." I walked upstairs. I packed a duffel bag. By Friday afternoon, my mother was leaving voicemails so panicked her voice cracked on every third word. By Monday morning, my father's $840,000 bridge loan had defaulted. By the following Thursday, my sister's fiancé's family had canceled the prenup negotiations, and the wedding had been postponed indefinitely. I never raised my voice. I never sent a single text. I just opened the wall safe my grandfather had asked me to fill 3 weeks before he died. This is the story of what was inside it. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 27, and for the last 3 years, I was the only one taking care of my grandparents. I have a master's degree in healthcare administration from Brown University. I work as an operations manager at a regional hospice network. I drive a 2018 Subaru with 94,000 miles. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment in Federal Hill. The most expensive thing I own is a stone farmhouse in Stonewall Point, Rhode Island, valued at $1.4 million, which my grandfather Walter Carter, Pop, left to me through an irrevocable trust signed in his attorney's office in March of 2025. My parents did not know about that trust. My sister did not know about that trust. 3 people who had spent the last 3 years calculating the value of an old man's death had not bothered to ask the old man what he wanted, and the old man, being who he was, had returned the favor by not telling them. He told me. He told his attorney. He told a notary in a brick office near the marina. And then he died 7 weeks later in the upstairs bedroom of the house, holding my hand, while my mother and father and sister were in Newport for a charity gala. Before we go further, if these stories move you, subscribe. Hit that like button. It costs you nothing, means everything to us. Now let me tell you about Pop. My grandparents bought the house in Stonewall Point in 1972 for $38,000. Pop was a high school shop teacher. Graham, Eleanor, taught 2nd grade at the same school. Their one child was my father, Gregory Carter, who left Rhode Island at 22 for the University of Pennsylvania and came back at 28 with a finance degree, a tan, and a wife from a Greenwich, Connecticut family who had spent their entire engagement explaining the difference between new money and old money to a shop teacher's son. The house in Stonewall Point sat on a quiet rise above the water. A stone farmhouse with deep window sills, old pine floors, and a back porch that caught the last gold light every evening. The kind of place my grandmother taught me how to make blueberry cobbler without measuring cups, and where my grandfather taught me, by example, never by lecture, that a person's character shows up most clearly when nobody is forcing them to be decent. In the spring of 2022, Graham started forgetting things. Small at first. By October, the diagnosis was Alzheimer's, mid-stage at presentation. Pop was 79 and trying to be 60 again. I was 24 in the first year of my master's at Brown. I drove from Providence to Stonewall Point every weekend at first. Then every Wednesday and Saturday. Then by the spring of 2023, almost every day, leaving Brown at 7 a.m., getting to the house by 8:30, doing my reading at Pop's kitchen table while a Bluetooth pulse oximeter beeped on Graham's finger, and a home nurse named Esperanza Diallo moved quietly between rooms. For 3 years, I paid for everything: medication, food, repairs, care, over $47,000, while my family barely showed up. I had a spreadsheet, I had every receipt. I just hadn't yet had a reason to print it. My parents, in those same 3 years, visited the house 11 times. I counted. Pop counted too in a small moleskine notebook in his nightstand. After every visit, he wrote the date and one word: brief. Phone, dinner, photographs. My sister Chloe visited 4 times, once for Easter. Once in summer for a photo with the hydrangeas she posted with the caption, "My safe place." Once after the funeral. And once in February 2025, 3 months before Pop died, when she came alone for the first time in her life to look around the upstairs because she and her fiancé were trying to think about long-term housing. Pop watched her from the front porch through the bay window. He did not turn his head when she walked back out. He just said, very quietly to me, "Naomi, get the lawyer's number from my desk drawer. The one in the brick office near the marina. We're going Tuesday." That was the day everything changed. The lawyer was named Ethan Rowe. He was 64 years old. He had practiced estate law in the same brick office on Brick Wharf Lane for 31 years. He drove a 14-year-old Volvo wagon. He wore the same navy blazer to every meeting. He did not believe in flashy. We arrived at his office on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 2:00 p.m. Pop walked in under his own power for the last time. I held his elbow on the steps. Pop sat down. He did not waste a sentence. He said, "Ethan, Eleanor's gone. I have maybe 60 days. I want to fix the will before I can't sign anything." Ethan said, "Walter, I assumed." "I started the draft in November." Pop said, "Show me." What Ethan walked us through over the next 2 hours was the most carefully structured estate plan I have ever seen. The Walter and Eleanor Carter Family Trust. Irrevocable. Funded with the house at Stonewall Point, an investment portfolio of $312,000, and a small Vermont cabin worth approximately $145,000. Sole trustee, me, Naomi Margaret Carter. Sole lifetime beneficiary, me. My father was named nowhere in the trust. My sister was named nowhere. My mother was named nowhere. Ethan explained, "Walter, this structure is designed to be challenge-resistant. The trust is funded during your lifetime with full mental capacity attestation from your physician. The documentary record will be airtight." Pop said, "Ethan, I want one more thing." Ethan said, "What?" Pop said, "I want them to find out from a piece of paper, not from a phone call, not from a lawyer's letter. From a piece of paper, in my handwriting, in the wall safe, on the day they think they've won." Ethan looked at me, then he looked at Pop. Then he said, very slowly, "Walter, what you're describing is a controlled detonation. Are you cert?" Pop said, "Ethan, he ended that relationship the day he stopped showing up. I'm just letting Naomi keep the house we built, so she can decide what kind of family she wants to have in it." He wasn't leaving them a house. He was leaving them a lesson. Pop signed the trust at 3:47 p.m. I signed as trustee at 3:51 p.m. The notary stamp went on at 3:54 p.m. 3 weeks later, on March 25th, Pop and I sat at the kitchen table in Stonewall Point with the wall safe open between us, and we built the envelope. The wall safe was in the upstairs study. Installed in 1986. A Sentry, dial combination, fire-rated, bolted into the stud behind a hinged oil painting of the Stonewall Lighthouse my grandmother had painted in 1977. The combination was 1420-237. Graham's birthday plus Pop's birthday plus the year they were married. My father had asked about that safe more times than I could count over the years. Pop never gave him the combination. Pop never gave anyone the combination except me on a Sunday afternoon in 2021, casually. "Naomi. The combination on the safe is your grandmother's birthday plus mine plus the year we were married. Don't write it down, just remember it. You're going to need it someday." I had not written it down, I had remembered it. On March 25th, 2025, Pop sat in the leather chair by the study window and dictated the contents of the envelope we were going to leave inside. Item 1. A notarized copy of the Walter and Eleanor Carter Family Trust, all 47 pages, with the recording stamp from the Washington County Recorder's Office dated March 7th, 2025. Item 2. A letter from Ethan Rowe on his firm's letterhead, confirming that the trust had been properly executed during a period of full mental capacity, that I was the sole trustee and lifetime beneficiary, and that any attempt to challenge the trust would be defended vigorously at the trust's expense. Item 3. A USB flash drive labeled in Pop's handwriting, For the family who came looking. On the drive, an audio recording Pop had made on my iPhone, 14 minutes long, in which he stated his name, the date, his mental state, his reasons for the trust, and a specific sentence directed at my father by name. Item 4. A second sealed envelope, addressed to Mr. Hayward Donovan, Esquire, of the Boston law firm representing my sister's fiancé's family in their prenuptial negotiations. Inside, a letter formally notifying the Donovan firm that any representations made by Gregory Carter regarding the family's coastal Rhode Island property as a marital asset were, as of March 7, 2025, materially false. Pop had asked me to mail that letter only if my parents tried to push me out of the house. Otherwise, it stayed sealed. Item 5. On top of everything, in Pop's careful handwriting, in blue fountain pen ink, on a single sheet of cream-colored stationery he had bought in Newport in 1983, one sentence. If you are reading this because you came looking for something to take, then you already know exactly why you were left out. WC, March 25, 2025. Pop closed the safe. He spun the dial. He looked at me. He said, "Naomi, don't open that safe again unless they make you. The day they make you is the day you find out who they always were." He died 7 weeks later, May 14, 2025, 4:18 a.m. I was holding his right hand. Esperanza was holding his left. My parents were at a gala in Newport that they did not leave when I called them at 11 p.m. the previous night to tell them the hospice nurse had said it was ours. They arrived at the house at 9:47 a.m. They asked me, before they had taken off their coats, where the will was. May 22, 2025. Pop's funeral. My father read a eulogy that mentioned himself 11 times and Pop 3 times. I counted. June 19, 2025, Ethan released the original 1998 will to my parents per Rhode Island probate code. The 1998 will named my father as primary beneficiary of the residue of the estate. What my parents did not know, and Ethan did not yet inform them, was that the residue, after the trust funding, was approximately $14,200 in a checking account. June 21, 2025. My mother called me at 9:32 p.m. and said, "Naomi, why is the bank account empty?" I said, "Mom, everything Pop wanted you to inherit, you already inherited." She said, "What does that mean?" I said, "It means I'm not the right person to ask." Talk to Ethan. July through December, 2025. 6 months of escalating pressure. My mother started inviting me to Sunday dinners I had not been invited to in 3 years. My sister started texting wedding planning questions. My father started stopping by the Stonewall Point house unannounced 3 times, each time looking for documents Pop wanted me to have. I changed the locks on July 7th. January 12, 2026, my sister Chloe got engaged. His parents, Marcus and Phoebe Donovan Halliwell, were the kind of Boston family whose name appeared on hospital wings. Their attorneys at Donovan, Pell and Marchetti, were already conducting due diligence on the prospective marital estate. The wedding was scheduled for August 22, 2026, at Stonewall Point. February 28, 2026, my father took out an $840,000 short-term bridge loan against 3 undeveloped parcels, using the implied equity in the Stonewall Point house. The loan was due December 31, 2026. The interest rate was 11.4%. He needed to refinance with a primary lender by April 1, 2026, or default into a punitive 18.9% rate. I did not know about the loan in February. I knew about it by the 3rd week of April, when Ethan and a forensic accountant named Paya Mukherjee helped me trace the public filings. April 14, 2026, my father called and asked if we could chat about the family situation. I said tomorrow morning, my house, 8 a.m. He asked if we could come to Stonewall Point instead. I said, sure. That was the trap I let him walk into. I wanted them in Pop's house. I wanted them in the kitchen. I wanted the safe upstairs. They thought they had already won. That was their biggest mistake. April 15th, 2026. 8:00 a.m. exactly. My mother arrived first in a cream wool coat. My father came 2 minutes later in a navy blazer and brown loafers. My sister came last in a camel coat, engagement ring, catching the morning light through the bay window the way she had practiced for 12 weeks. I had made coffee. I had set out 4 mugs. The morning light through the east windows was the same gold light Pop used to drink his coffee in. My mother sat at the table without taking off her coat. She stirred sugar into the coffee I had poured for her. She did not look up. She said, "Honey, the house is too much for one person, especially a young woman with a career. We all feel, that the most loving thing we can do as a family is help you transition out of here so the house can serve a fuller purpose." I said, "What's a fuller purpose, Mom?" My father answered, "Naomi, Chloe and Pierce are getting married in August. Pierce's family wants to host the wedding here. Your sister deserves that. The house should go to her." I looked at Chloe. Chloe was looking at her ring. I said, "And me." My mother said, "We've found you a beautiful 1-bedroom in East Greenwich. Brand new, granite countertops. We'll cover first and last and the deposit. You have 2 days to get your personal things out. Friday at 5, leave the keys on the counter. Don't make it ugly." 2 days, I held the cold coffee mug. I felt the ridges where Graham had glazed it crookedly in 1989. I felt, for one quiet second, my grandfather's hand on my elbow on the steps of Ethan Rowe's office. I said, "Okay." My mother blinked, "Okay." I said, "Okay, Friday at 5, got it." My father exhaled the way men exhale when they have been bracing for a fight that did not come. My mother smiled the small private smile of a woman who has just discovered her daughter was always going to be reasonable. Chloe, by the counter, let one small breath of laughter escape, barely audible, but I heard it. I will hear it for the rest of my life. I stood up. I put the cold coffee mug in the sink. I walked upstairs. Behind me in the kitchen, I heard my mother say, "Well, that was easier than I thought." If you've ever been the one who showed up, you'll understand what comes next. I didn't argue, I prepared. Wednesday, 8:47 a.m., I called Ethan from the upstairs study. He picked up on the second ring. I said, "Ethan, they came, Friday at 5. Ethan said, "Naomi, I am clearing my Friday afternoon. I will be at your house at 4:30 p.m. with a notary and a videographer. Do not engage with them between now and then. Save every voicemail. Document every text. If they show up at the property, do not open the door." I said, "Ethan, the second envelope, the Donovan firm letter, do I send it now?" He said, "Not yet." We send it Friday afternoon at 4:48 p.m., exactly 12 minutes before your family arrives. The Donovan firm will receive it before your sister's fiancé hears anything about Friday from his parents. That is the timing your grandfather wanted. You are honoring it. Wednesday, 11:30 a.m., I called Paya Mukherjee. She emailed me a 23-page packet by 2:14 p.m. The bridge loan was real. The default risk was real. The April 1 refinance deadline had already passed. My father was running on borrowed time at 18.9% interest. Wednesday, 4:08 p.m., my mother's voicemail. "So proud of how mature you're being. Don't forget the antique silver in the dining room. That's family property. Please leave it. Love you." Saved, forwarded to Ethan. Labeled. Wednesday, 6:42 p.m., my father's voicemail. "Naomi, this is the right thing. I know it's hard." Saved, forwarded, labeled. Thursday, 9:14 a.m., Chloe sent me a text. A photograph of a Pinterest board labeled New SDONEMILL. 6 pictures of white-painted kitchens, marble counters, gold fixtures. Caption, "Pierce's mom said she'd help with the renovation budget. Going to be magazine-worthy by August?" Smiling face with 3 hearts saved. Forwarded. Labeled. Thursday, 4:47 p.m., I packed performative boxes. Kitchen, BOOKS, COATS, bathroom. I put them in the guest bedroom where anyone glancing through the doorway would see them. None of the boxes contained anything I actually owned. The kitchen box had Pop's old phone books in it. I made the performance look real because the performance was the only thing buying me time. Thursday, 7:33 p.m., my mother showed up alone at the front door with pastries from a bakery I used to like in college. She said the family was under stress. She said Pop wouldn't want this. I let her speak for 11 minutes. Then I said, "Mom, I'm tired. I'll see you Friday at 5. I closed the door. I heard her car start 90 seconds later. Friday, 4:30 p.m. Ethan arrived with Paya, a notary named Glendon, and a videographer named Maeve who set up 2 unobtrusive cameras, one in the kitchen, one in the study. Rhode Island is a one-party consent state. We were within our legal rights to record any conversation in my own house. Friday, 4:48 p.m., Ethan's paralegal sent the certified mail letter to Donovan, Pell, and Marchetti. Subject line: Material disclosure regarding the Whitman-Carter/Donovan Halliwell prenuptial negotiations, time sensitive. Friday, 4:59 p.m., a black BMW pulled into the driveway. My father came in first. He did not knock. He used the key to the back door that he had quietly copied in 2019. He walked into the kitchen as if he were re-entering a house he already owned. My mother followed. Cream coat, pearl earrings. Chloe came last, tall boots. Already on her phone, texting Pierce. My father saw Ethan first. He stopped. He said, "Who are you?" Ethan said, "Mr. Carter, Ethan Rowe, I'm here as the trustee's attorney." My mother's face tightened. She said, "Naomi, what is this?" I said, "Mom, Friday at 5, like you said. Let's go up to the study. The keys to the safe Pop wanted you to have are inside it." My father lit up. The mention of the safe did to him what a check does to a hungry man. He walked past Ethan. He took the stairs 2 at a time. Chloe lingered in the foyer. She looked at the videographer with 2 cameras on tripods. She said, "Mom," in a voice that suddenly belonged to a much younger woman. My mother yelled from upstairs, "Chloe, come on." The 4 of us, me, my father, my mother, my sister, entered the upstairs study at 5:04 p.m. The afternoon light was the color of bourbon. The wall safe was behind the lighthouse painting. My father said, "What's the combination?" I said, 1420-237. Graham's birthday plus Pop's birthday plus the year they were married. He spun the dial. He overshot the first time because his hands were shaking. The safe clicked open at 5:06 p.m. He reached in. He pulled out the cream-colored sheet of stationery on top. He read it. He read it again. He went very still. My mother said, "What does it say?" "Greg." "What does it say?" He handed her the sheet. She read it 3 times. The 3rd time her hands started to shake. I said, "Mom, keep reading. There's more in there." My father pulled out the 47-page trust document. He flipped to page 1. He flipped to page 11, where the trustee was named. He flipped to page 23, where the recording stamp was. He flipped to the last page, where Pop's signature sat above the date March 7, 2025. He sat down on the leather chair by the window. He did not stand up again for the next 19 minutes. My mother pulled out Ethan's letterhead letter. She made a small sound in the back of her throat that was not quite a word. Chloe pulled out the USB drive. She held it up. She said, "What's this?" I said, "An audio recording from Pop. 14 minutes. He talks about each of you by name. Would you like to hear it?" Chloe said, "No." My mother said, "Naomi, there has to be this can't Greg. Greg, talk to her." My father did not look up from page 11. I said, "Mom, there's one more envelope. The one addressed to the Donovan firm in Boston." My mother went white in a way I had only ever seen in hospice patients in the hour before death. She said, "Naomi, please, tell me you have not sent that letter." I said, "Mom, Ethan sent it at 4:48 p.m. 12 minutes before you walked into this house." Chloe said, "What letter? What letter, Mom? What is she talking about?" My mother said, "Chloe, be quiet." Chloe said louder, "Mom, what letter?" I answered, because Pop had told me that if Chloe ever asked the question directly, I should answer. I said, "Chloe, Pop sent a letter to Pierce's parents' attorneys. The letter informs them that this house is not now and has never been part of Mom and Dad's estate. That Dad's representations to them about a coastal family compound in Stonewall Point were materially false. That as of March 7, 2025, the house has been held in an irrevocable trust to which only I have legal claim. The letter went out by certified mail and email this afternoon." Chloe sat down on the floor of the study, right where she was standing. She did not cry, she just sat. My father from the leather chair finally spoke. He said, "Naomi," he had no right. I said, Dad, he had every right. It was his house. He said, I am his son. I said, yes, you were. Within days, everything collapsed. The engagement, the loan, the business, everything. Saturday, April 18th, Pierce drove to Chloe's apartment. He stayed 40 minutes, he left without her. Chloe texted me at 12:34 p.m. He says his parents need to pause everything. Please, Naomi, I didn't know. I responded, Chloe, I know you didn't know everything, but you knew enough, take care of yourself, I love you. Don't text me again until you're ready to mean something different. Monday, April 20th. Marcus and Phoebe Donovan Halliwell formally suspended the prenuptial negotiations pending additional financial disclosures from the Carter family. The suspension was, in practice, the end of the engagement. The wedding was officially postponed on April 24th. It was never rescheduled. Wednesday, April 22nd. My father's bridge loan was rejected by his backup lender after a routine asset verification call to Ethan Rowe's office returned the answer. Mr. Carter has no ownership interest in the Stonewall Point property. The property is held in an irrevocable trust dated March 7, 2025. Mr. Carter is not a beneficiary. The loan defaulted into the 18.9% punitive rate at midnight on April 30th. By June 14th, my father had been forced to liquidate the 3 East Greenwich parcels at a $310,000 loss. By August 11th, Carter Coastal Holdings, LLC had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Rhode Island Federal Court. The case number is 2610472. It is publicly searchable. May 17th, my mother resigned from 2 Providence area charity boards she had served on for 9 and 12 years. Stonewall Point is a small place. People talk. June 9th, my parents listed the Greenwich house for $1.685 million. It sold in 11 days for $1.62 million. After the mortgage payoff and bridge loan recovery, they cleared approximately $187,000. August 26th, they moved into a 2-bedroom rental in Cranston, $2,400 a month. The first time in their adult lives they have been renters. September 2nd, Chloe called me, the first call in 4 months. She was crying. She said, Naomi, I'm in therapy, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to hear my voice. I let her cry. After a while she said, Pop chose you because you were the one who chose him. I'm sorry I didn't see that. I said, Chloe, thank you for saying that. Coffee in 2 weeks, my city, you drive to me. She drove to Providence on September 16th. We sat at a small cafe on Federal Hill for 2 hours. We talked about Graham, we talked about Cobbler. We did not talk about the house. We have coffee once a month now. She brings hydrangeas. She does not post photographs of us on Instagram. That is one of the ways I know she has changed. My mother has not spoken to me since the study. April 17th, 2026 was the last day I heard my mother's voice. She has sent me 3 text messages. The first, we need to discuss the silver. I did not respond. The second, your father is not well, family means something. I did not respond. The third, in October, Naomi, I forgive you. I did not respond. I am 27 years old. I do not need my mother's forgiveness. The only person in my family who ever needed forgiveness from me did not live long enough to ask for it, and her name was Alina, and she did not need to ask, because Alzheimer's took the woman who could have hurt me long before the woman who loved me ever stopped showing up in the kitchen with Cobbler. My father called me once in late November from a number I did not recognize. I picked up. He said, Naomi, it's Dad, don't hang up. I did not hang up. I said, Dad, what? He said, I want to apologize, not for the house, for before the house. For every Christmas you came over and ate at the kids' table after you turned 25. For every time I let your mother describe Chloe as the fun daughter and you as the responsible one. For every time I let it happen because it was easier than fighting. For every time you were the one driving 47 miles to my parents' house and I was the one going to a gala. I'm sorry. I sat with that for a long time, in the back porch chair Pop used to sit in. The light was the color of late October. The water was the color of slate. I said, Dad. Thank you for saying that. He said, Will I ever see you again? I said, Dad, maybe. I am willing to be in a room with you sometime in the next few years if Chloe is also in the room. I am not willing to be in a room alone with you. That is the most I can offer you right now. He said, Naomi, that's more than I deserve. I said, Dad, it is exactly what you deserve, not more, not less. He sent me a Christmas card in December. He signed it Dad and nothing else. I put it in a drawer with Pop's notebook and a photograph of Esperanza and me in the kitchen at Stonewall Point. That drawer is full of things I do not look at often, but I know they are there. It is November 2026 now, 18 months since Pop died, 7 months since the study. I still live in Federal Hill during the work week. I drive to Stonewall Point every Friday afternoon. The light that time of year is the color of strong tea. The water beyond the porch is the color of nothing in particular. I open the front door. I drop my keys in the bowl. I walk to the kitchen. I make tea in Graham's chipped blue mug. I take the tea to the back porch. I sit in Pop's chair. Esperanza comes for dinner once a month. She brings stew. We eat at the kitchen table where her hands and mine fed 2 dying people for 3 years. We talk about her grandchildren. We talk about Pop. We talk about Graham sometimes, because Graham is harder. The wall safe is still in the upstairs study, behind the lighthouse painting. The combination is still 1420-237. The safe is empty now. The trust is on file with the Washington County Recorder. Ethan has the originals. The safe is just a safe again, the way it should be. I am dating a man named Augustin. He is 31. He is an architect who restores old New England houses. He has been to Stonewall Point twice. He has not asked me about the safe. He has not asked me about the property line. He asked me, on his second visit, whether I had ever considered taking down the wall between the kitchen and the dining room because the natural light flow was being interrupted by a non-load-bearing partition added in the 1950s. I laughed for the first time in a long time when he said that. Not at him. At the relief of being asked an architectural question by a man who was not calculating an inheritance. Here is what I want to say to anyone watching this. When that morning comes, when the 3 of them walk into Pop's kitchen with a cream coat and a navy blazer and an engagement ring catching the morning light, do 4 things. 1. Do not argue. Say okay, walk upstairs, pack a duffel bag if you have to. Performance is a tool. Pop taught me that. 2. Call the lawyer, today, within the hour. The first person to file the paperwork is the person the system believes. 3. Document everything. Save every voicemail. Screenshot every text. Build the spreadsheet. Build it the night they tell you it is not necessary. 4. When the day comes, let them open the safe. Let them read the page. Let the silence do the work. You do not have to yell. You do not have to cry. You just have to be holding the trust deed when they finally understand what they are not holding. They gave me 48 hours to leave. My grandfather gave me a lifetime to stay. They thought they were taking the house. They walked into a trap instead, and everything ended. The moment they opened that safe. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and join our community for more true life stories. We'll see you in the next one.